Kia ora and hello, this is Arun Jacob, your friendly and frank licensed New Zealand immigration advisor, as well as international education advisor. I love to help young people like all of you to come to New Zealand and study here and then work your way towards success in this beautiful country. Of late, I have been getting a lot of queries around the question: can an international student in New Zealand drive an Uber while he or she is studying and earn money? The simple answer to that is no. And I would like to explain to you why. There are four different components to this answer. The first component comes from Uber itself. Does Uber allow people and anybody to drive for them? Well, they are a multi billion dollar corporation, I think, now, and they would like to have as many drivers as they can on this earth in different parts of the world. So they have no problem about but their rules very clearly state to drive an Uber in New Zealand, you need something called the P endorsement. P, P for Papa, which is the passenger endorsement, which means with a P endorsement, you are now allowed to carry passengers in your car. So, number one, Uber has no problems, but they will want the P endorsement. So, let's go to number two. Who gives you the P endorsement? It is somebody called the NZTA, the New Zealand Transport Authority. And I did a lot of research before I made this particular video to check if they have any problems with international students, driving passenger cars. It looks like they don't. In fact, on their website, it clearly states for any queries related to immigration, check with the immigration website. So that's interesting, which means they're really not taking ownership or responsibility for any applications made. However, the NZTA website does say that for you to get a P endorsement, you should have had a valid New Zealand driver's license for at least 2 years. So, which means if you're a new international student into New Zealand and you haven't had a New Zealand driver's license, more than likely you will not be eligible for the P endorsement from NZTA. But again, there might be a variation where if you're getting a job where a P endorsement is required, you might then be able to go to NZTA and explain to them saying, hey, look, I don't need a P endorsement to drive an Uber, but I would like a P endorsement because that's part of my employment agreement. And so you can share with them a copy of your employment agreement, which says that you require a P endorsement. But again, Uber is never going to give you that letter. So it's got to be a private employer, locally somebody who might need for you to sometimes transport a passenger. So, that's the reason you will need that. So that is the second component. Component one, Uber, they would really have no problems, but they'll want the P endorsement. So we move to component two, which is the NZTA. They don't seem to be talking too much about immigration on the website, but they do say that you need to have a license in New Zealand, a New Zealand license for 2 years. They do say on the website that people with foreign driving licenses can potentially also apply for this, but obviously the amount of documentation and the scrutiny and the checks required will be a lot more. Let's move to component three, or the third party involved, immigration New Zealand. Now, that is the person or the people who gave you your visa in the first place. And they issued you with a student visa, which clearly states that self employment cannot be considered while you're on your student visa. So, that is very, very clearly written into the rules and laws of immigration of New Zealand. And this is actually published on their website as well. So if you're looking at trying to get by immigration because you want to drive an Uber, I don't think they will like it too much because first and foremost, it will fall under self-employment, because employment is regular, 9 to 5 hours or whatever is the timings of that particular company. And Uber is not. Uber is more like casual stuff which you're doing for self-employment, and that's what is happening. So immigration would not like it. The fourth component is basically yourself. What is it you've come to New Zealand for as an international student? Just to drive an Uber and survive? Or complete your course honestly and diligently? And I go back to component 3 one more time, which is Immigration New Zealand, when they granted your visa, took care to ensure that you had adequate living funds to take care of yourself while you finish your course. So they will obviously query you saying, hey, why are you cutting corners or trying to break the law to earn money when you already stated to us in your application for a student visa saying that you have adequate funds to take care of yourself while you're studying. Once you finish your studies, and depending on what level of course you have finished, then of course you'll move into the post-study work visa, which might be 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on what level of course you've finished. So immigration New Zealand can be quite tough on these things because they obviously don't want to come in. They don't want international students to come and take up jobs that local New Zealand residents and citizens can take up. And so, yeah, that's the way it is. So the last question is, what are you here for in New Zealand for? You're here to study a good course from a good institution, especially if you have come through AJV Global, because we would have taken all the care to make sure you were put into the right course and the right institution, and made sure that you had adequate funds to support yourself while you were here. So if you're really looking for a part-time job, there are tons of part-time jobs. Yes, the news is all around saying, employment is low, people are not hiring, I'm on a student visa and only on a part-time work visa, that's why I'm not getting jobs. But then, look, it's not to everybody. There are hundreds, thousands of young international students who still go and find part-time jobs. Every time I walk into a supermarket in my beautiful city, Hamilton, there's inevitably an international student who is working there. How did he or she get that job? That's what you got to ask yourself. So my sincere advice is, don't risk your entire future in New Zealand by trying to, bend the rules or cut the corners and try to become an Uber driver, even if you somehow manage to get the P endorsement, because eventually Immigration New Zealand will catch you out. And once they do that, well, I think your entire future in this country is in jeopardy. Hope I answered that question to your satisfaction. If you have more queries, do not hesitate to reach out to ajvglobal.com. We're on different platforms. We are on, so all you got to do is Google ajvglobal.com and or just AJV Global on Google, and talk to us. And we're here to provide you the most honest, up-to-date, and straightforward information without trying to cut corners ourselves. So you take care. All the very best. Thanks for watching this video. Kia ora.